it's just on point. You know what I mean? Even back then, just so on point. You know, if we were being okay, one of my favorite words, authenticity. If we just had politicians that were authentic, we would never be in the problem that we're in.
Yeah.
But all they care about is their own personal agenda. So let's, for the normies, let's take out the fact that these are a bunch of baby eating Satanists. Let's take that out. Let's take out the fact that a lot of people call them reptilians. Let's take out the fact that they're all Freemasons. Okay, let's take out the fact that they're part of the Illuminati. Let's just put all that aside. They're money hungry jerk offs. That's at least at minimum a proven fact, and all they care about is power and money, power and money, power and money, power and money. That alone is devil's work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the fact that they focus on that and they don't give a darn about we the people or the ramifications for their decisions is why the whole system has to be completely torn down to rebuild it righteously, in my opinion.
No, you're 100% on point, because I was just having that conversation with Phoebe as we were just reading the Benjamin Fulford newsletter, and I said, okay, this is what the expectations are. And we're going to go into that. I think we'll go into that, if not today, we'll do it certainly tomorrow, looking at what he had to share, because I want to dig into it a little bit more. But the same idea applies not just to the governmental system, but also the banking and the big pharma and all of it. It's like it's so corrupt. And how do you get in there and eke out the corruption? Because it's at so many levels. And you think about, my thought is like you have the frontline people, right? The people we interact with. And they're so indoctrinated into it. If you look at the average doctor, you say, hey, doc, I'm having trouble with my blood pressure. Well, there's a supplement called bergamot that'll help you with that. They know nothing about that. Nothing. They have zero information. Not only do they have zero information, but in their circle, they talk about people who talk like that as idiots, right? Because it's not what they talk about, and doctors are elevated to this stance in our society where we think, oh, they know all the answers, they have all the answers. They don't. And then so how do you break into that clique, if you will, and change that mindset that they've been indoctrinated in since the very beginning of med school? And it's the same with politicians. How do you break that when that's what all of them are doing? They're all in the same group. They all have the same conversations. They hang out at the same restaurants, the same bars, the same nightclubs, right? And they're all thinking the same way, that group think. And anybody who comes in from the outside, i.e. Trump, he's hated.
Yep. Yep. Well, it's interesting because I'm wondering when people are going to figure out that education is indoctrination. It's not education.
Right.
In the United States, it hasn't been education in a long time. I'm sorry. Your preschoolers are not being educated. They're being indoctrinated all the way up through college. And what happens is the higher education is just higher levels of indoctrination all the way through. So they condition you to become a worker. They condition you to be a yes man. They condition you to abuse other people if they're not in the same realm of thinking you are. They're not being taught to free think and debate, which, by the way, used to be a part of school back in the day.
You remember that debate class? Like we had debate class in high school, right?
Open debate. Now, if you do a debate class, everybody agrees that there's only one way to think, but you'll either be able to present the counter narrative or the pro narrative, even though they know if you're presenting the counter narrative, you don't really agree with that, but you're just doing it so that person can abuse you on stage.
Yep.
It's a game now, and it's disgusting, just disgusting. There is no open debate whatsoever, which is why we're in the situation that we're in. And I don't know if anybody tracks this, but United States respected as educated has been dropping every single year. Every year we're rated lower and lower and lower and lower in accordance to the world's education. It's really crazy.
Well, you look at the public school situation, you look at the way they will not listen to the parents. You look at the way they put a wall up between them, and you got your 3 minutes, and bang, they shut off your mic, and if you keep going, they kick you out. They call the cops, right? They don't want to hear it. They're not open to discussion. And the truth is, when that idea that Hillary Clinton brought up, it takes a village, I think there's some validity in that, where you say, okay, you got all the parents together. How do we want to teach our kids? How do we want to make them productive members of society going forward? And there are certain things that they need to know that aren't simply just not taught. I mean, you could take a high school kid. Do they know how to balance a checkbook? They know how to fill out their taxes? Do they know how to apply for a job? I mean, simple life skills, right? High school was always supposed to be, when you finished high school, you should be a functioning member of society and be able to do all the things you need to do to be a member of society. It doesn't mean you're specialized in anything. It's a general education that gives you the ability to function in society. Not true anymore. High school kids don't have that ability.
No, they don't. In fact, all of my kids, when they were young, looking to go out and get a job, and I believe everybody should start with an entry-level job. I think that's very powerful when you're young. Every single one of them came to me and said, okay, how do I interview? How do we do it? And then we role play scenarios, and it builds their confidence, because I was pretty tough on them. But then they go into the situation and they're all very successful in whatever fields that they chose, because they have the confidence. And it's shocking to the people that are interviewing, because they don't see a person come in and approach the interview, and they don't see a person asking them questions, and they're like, what? It's a very interesting dynamic.
Well, most people go in the interview and they're scared and they're meek and their heads down and they're just like, yes sir, yes sir. It's like they don't know how to respond. Yeah. Crazy.
No, my wife, since these kids are little, have been teaching the proper way to shake a hand too, and she'll call them on it. Like if one of their friends comes in and shakes the hand, she'll be like, no.
That's a limp handshake. Stop it.
That's not how you shake a hand. So it's important,
It is.
We're parents, and parents are ultimately leaders, and you just can't hand it over to the education system and hope they do a good job, because they have a completely different agenda than you have, and their agenda is not pro child.
Correct. Well, my thinking on this has always been that these teachers that are teaching you, a teacher can only teach you what they know. And since every one of them never left the school system, what do they know about living a real life? They are 9-to-5 employees, right? They're basically, they're a union, they're whatever. They went to school, they got their master's degree, and the next day they're back in class again. They're back in the school system. They never left the indoctrination system. So they don't know. And my best teachers were the ones that came from outside the system, right? They're the ones who were the hustlers, and they were out in the street. My favorite teacher was a photojournalist, and he would hustle for a living. And oh my God, the things I learned from him. I became best friends with him after I graduated, and we spent time going back and forth from Montreal to Plattsburgh State University, and hours and hours and hours of conversation. It just was so good. And it was like, and he would tell me, he says, I can't teach you these things in school. I'm not allowed to. I'm like, shouldn't everybody be hearing this? It's just common sense. But it's fascinating. I have another video from the Roger Ailes interview about Trump. I want to share this with you because it leads to a conversation I heard with from SG and on late last day. True.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Yep.
Well, he's a blue collar dude. I mean, I feel it ironic because unless he's golfing, you'll almost never see him out of a suit, right? But he'll get his hands dirty. That's just the type of mentality he has, and that's why he could have conversations with the blue collar, and he can, yet he still has respect from the white collar community, even if they're liberals, because they're like, wow, this guy knows how to run a business. Like, he understands the stock market. He understands this. So that's why his appeal was so great. And it was obvious that he got probably 70% of the votes, and to Hillary's 30 would be my guess.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's all a moot point until it comes public.
Right. So 𝙎𝙎𝘾𝙇𝙀𝘼𝙍, he was being interviewed on one of the shows I was listening to last week, and one thing he said that when they were looking for who to put into the presidency, the white hat, the good side, right? They were looking for somebody. They said they wanted somebody who was independently wealthy, billionaire at very least. They wanted somebody who wasn't bought out by any of the lobbyists or any of the big corporations. They needed somebody who was very independent thinking, and they settled on Donald Trump because he fit the bill for that, and he had very, very, very good public rating. So he was already well loved before he got into politics, right? And when he got into politics, well, the left broke off and didn't love him anymore, but our side loved him even more because we heard what he was about. And he went on to say, he said Donald Trump agreed to take that role on with one stipulation, is he wanted to be a regular president. He wanted to run the election, he wanted to win the election, he wanted to do everything by the book. So apparently they agreed, they came to agreement on that, and that's why he was in 2016. So that's kind of interesting when you hear that, and then you see it juxtaposed with this little interview. It's like, well, that's kind of interesting because he's not bought out. He is his own man. He made his own money. It's not Dad's money, I think he got $1 million loan to get started from his father way back when, and then he just built that and built that and built that.
Yeah, and a lot of people go, "Oh, you got $1 million." I go, "Well, you turn $1 million into billions of dollars. You know you're doing something right."
Yeah, yeah. And the big claim on him that he went bankrupt. He personally didn't go bankrupt. He filed for bankruptcy protection on his companies, and basically that allowed him to restructure the loans. All were paid back eventually.
Yeah, it was strategic.
It was strategic, yeah. And it's one of those things. You look at it and you say, okay, so he himself didn't go bankrupt. And even if he did, does it really matter? The most successful home run hitters strike out more than they hit home runs. You know what I mean? It's like, hello.
You're fighting against a corrupt system. So
Yeah.
if you go bankrupt nowadays, I mean, it's almost expected in business. It's sad. I mean, there's a 95% failure rate in your first 2 years of business.
Yeah, literally. Donald Trump. There's more little videos that you can watch. I'll post the whole thing on the Renegade Media Telegram channel so you guys can watch the whole thing if you want to. Yeah, okay. I have to show you this photo. I don't want to show it to you because I know it makes people upset, but here's that judge again. This is a New York City case that's going on today, and Trump was on fire as he brought the heat. Forget about the gag order. Forget about this judge fining him. Forget about everything. He went on the stand this morning, and this judge was just beside himself. He turned red. He was angry. He was out of sorts completely. And they were asking President Trump, because he was on the stand this morning, questions, and instead of answering yes or no, he was accused of doing campaign speeches on the stand. But he was trying to explain, the corruption and how far off base this whole case is. That was really interesting to see that. It was too bad there's no cameras in that courtroom, because that would have been something else to see. We're getting hearsay and we're getting text from it, but we're not getting. I would love to see the video of him on the stand. So this was from earlier today. This is before he came out. Engoron is very upset that President Trump is able to freely speak during his trial. According to reports, the judge repeatedly attacked President Trump for his long-winded answers to questions about his highly successful international business. New York Attorney General Letitia James is hoping to pilfer $250 million from the Trump family for her ridiculous claims that the Trump organization was overvaluing their assets. The court has failed to prove this during their show trial. A bit more, but you could tell that woman's on fire.
Which is needed. So she's calling out the judge. What I love, and this is a we the people statement, and I hope people pay attention to what she's saying here, because she's teeing it up for y'all. You don't have to just respect a judge or a doctor or a politician or a board member of a school because they happen to go through school and make it to that position. No, they need to earn your respect, and they need to be respectful to you. And she says, I do not put up with this at home, and I'm certainly not going to put up with this from him. That's a big deal.
We know who wears the pants in her household.
Yeah. or maybe they both wear the pants.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
That's a whole other story. But my point is, she is telling people, stop Stop just looking at these people and going, oh, you're a doctor. Oh, wow, you're the best. Or you're a judge. No, we're done with it. We're done with it. And she gives a perfect example that you do not have to put up with it. And she's saying his behavior is unhinged. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely what we need.
Yeah. And then Trump, before the trial started this morning,
Awesome. And it could be part of the plan, but it's awesome that the wackiest of the wacky are the ones running all these court cases against Trump.
all democratically elected too.
Oh, yeah. Well, are they?
Yeah. Well, selected. Okay. Let's
Yeah,
say selected.
that's
Use the word correctly. You're right. Selected.
yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Oh, yeah, literally. Just kind of a, I'm looking at this and I just take a step back from it, right? And a lot of people, it's a show trial, it's a show trial, it's a show trial. There's an aspect of that that's true, but it's still going through the existing system. And why it's becoming a circus is because they don't really have a leg to stand on. And you put Trump on the stand this morning and he did not hold back. I mean, he just went after it full, and his lawyers and everything. It's like, whoa, so it's really refreshing, Louis, I think, to see actual leadership, right? It's, because you would see, I don't know, let's say the shoe was on the other foot and this was Biden on the stand. What kind of response would he get? You know what I mean? He wouldn't be fighting back like that, I don't think. He doesn't have it in him.
Well, I know part of his sentence would be hamada, 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 but that's
exactly.
a whole other story. So what I think Trump and his attorney and a lot of other people are doing now, which I think is very important, they're giving we the people the examples of how you deal with a deep state corrupt person in general. They're not, no, we don't put up with it. We expose them. This is what they do. And he did this in 2015. And if you notice, the normal so-called Republicans standard rhetoric was just very basic, policy driven, so on and so forth. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to go after him. And then some of them started to come at him harder. And then you had the Matt Gaetz, and then you had the other ones that just start hitting harder and harder and harder. And they're finding out that it's okay to do that. Don't look at the controlled opposition that's been teaching conservatives forever just to be docile and people and what they call meek, which is a misrepresentation of what the word really means. But I think it's very, very interesting to watch that when I say we, people of a conservative nature, which I don't even know if I like that word. How about a patriot nature, a concerned person nature, are now starting to say, no, we don't put up with it anymore. And in fact, my wife and I have made a decision as of yesterday. We are going to, if we go into a restaurant, when we go to the front desk, we're going to request, may I have somebody that doesn't wear a mask as my waitress or waiter or server? Because we're done with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll see what type of pushback we get from the manager, and then I'll have a nice, fun conversation with that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's the world we live in, and I think, rememberyouroath.com is going to be playing a big role, because when we have these people who step up, we can highlight them, right? And we can say, hey, send them an email, send them whatever, send them some support so they know they're not alone. Because what happens is when you see one step up, the first guy to step up is looking over his shoulder constantly, right? And when nothing happens, or he realizes, wow, there's support here, then they keep going, right? And we want to encourage that as much as possible, because we need these leaders to step up. All of us need to be a leader in our own way, but there are those that will step up above and beyond everything, and those are the ones we need to be supporting. It's like the fact that they're speaking out, the fact that they're stepping up, the fact that they're not showing fear, they're showing leadership. We ought to recognize that.
Well, we do. In fact, there was we showed a video here recently where a gentleman stepped up in a board meeting, right? And he was condemned and pushed out. And although 60, 70, 80% maybe of the audience agreed with him, nobody stood up and supported him when he was being yanked out of the room.
Yep.
So I'm going to go as far as this. You really want to see if you have guts? Go to your church, and if the guy at the front of the room at the pulpit is saying something that you know is wrong, say something back. Now, you think you're going to be attacked? Oh, yeah, you're going to be attacked big time because many of the people are indoctrinated then. But you need to stand up so people start to realize, like, whoa, this doesn't make sense. And one of my biggest challenges within the churches, the indoctrination is through the roof. I mean, I believe Christian churches right now are wholesale love Israel, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I think we should evaluate this a little bit differently.
Do you know that was part of the strategy to get the messaging out, was to indoctrinate the pastors, the priests, all the church leaders, right? All the religious leaders. It was intentional to do that, to bring them into a special meeting, right? And to make sure that they understood that they had to get the word out. And they do that in politics. They indoctrinate them so that they pitch, one candidate over another or one ideology over another. And they do it, and they may do it in subtle ways, but, when you're in church, you're believing that person who's up there is speaking the truth and speaking, wholeness and pureness, and that's the role that they play. And you don't realize that sometimes, they've been fooled, and they're giving you a message that's untrue. And you're right, we do need to stand up to that.
I'll take it to a whole nother level. I think many times the person at the front of the room holds the Bible in one hand and bullshit in the other.
Yep, very true.
And they know exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
Which is, again, those are the people, and this is why I said they're like the rhinos. The rhinos are the ones that pretend to be your friends, right? Why they're carving your heart out from the back, not even from your front, from your back.
Yep.
With a lot of these men that, in most cases, that run these churches, right? They have an alternative agenda that has nothing to do with filling you with the word. It has zero to do with that.
Yep.
So we have to use more discernment, and cannot wholesale agree just because they claim to be a Christian, or if you're Buddhist or whatever, or a Jew. Just because they claim that, and that happens to be a religion, you should probably step back and say, okay, wait a second. Is there an agenda here? And you're going to find out in most cases, unfortunately, there are. And a lot of people don't know. If you read about Tavistock through the CIA and through the DARPA, they've created waves of indoctrination for the heads of the churches in order to keep them on point, to keep us docile. That's why they lie to us about what the word meek is.
That and so many more things, right? So, yeah. Well, all these pastors and stuff, they all belong to organizations. They all talk. It's like the clique of doctors who all talk, and they get indoctrinated into their little, boxes, and they all think the same way, and they talk the same way, and they share the same things, and they all believe what they believe, and it all becomes the same message across all the different churches, and you think, well, this guy's different. Well, no, where does he belong to? Where does he hang out? Where does he get his information from, right? Where do they learn how to market? Because the church is a business, and they have to market to get enough people in there and get the donations and all the rest of that, right? So it's a business. They have to be able to bring in the funds, otherwise the church ceases to exist. So they all learn. They all go to these same seminars. They all meet the same people, right? And it's hard sometimes to recognize it as that. What do you mean they learn marketing? Well, they have to, right? It doesn't make sense. They're man of the cloth. Yeah, but they still have a business to run,
Yep, so true.
Hard to see it, but that's what's going on. Hey, did you see what happened on the weekend at the White House? Woohoo! Look at this. Anti-Israel protesters try to storm the White House and demand the destruction of Israel. I wonder how many of them are going to go to prison for 20 years. What do you think?
They won't.
Nobody will, right?
Yeah, this whole Israel... Palestine Hamas thing really disgusts me, and frankly, I'm disgusted with people that are supporting Israel or Palestine, because they're being manipulated. They're being manipulated through division. This is a construct of division that is very, very, very intentional here. In fact, I wrote some notes. Go figure. So, according to what looks like legitimate statistics, the Palestine has already lost over 10,000 people in the last month from the attacks from Israel.
Wow.
Over 4,000 of them are children. Now, right away, people will say, "Oh, yeah, but Hamas, they hide in churches and they hide in schools and they hide in hospitals." Okay, they do. Let me tell you this. Again, Israel has one of the best special forces units in the world. They can easily go in there with their forces and they can pinpoint, be accurate, and they could find and get who they want to get, right? Maybe there's a bigger agenda.
And don't be so so eager to destroy everything. Just tone it down a little bit. It's looking pretty bad. It's all about the optics, right?
Well, people need to go back in history. So Al Qaeda was really a creation of the CIA in order to fight Russia in Afghanistan. So maybe creation's too big of a word, but they supported it 100%, funded it, trained it, supplied them weapons. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's spawned off of Al Qaeda? Oh, gee, ISIS, right? And what's spawned off of the Iranian and the Hezbollah and all that? Then you get the Hamas and so on and so forth. So and Hamas was originally an Israel construction, right? So everybody should look back into this. So these entities are always fighting each other because they're being funded. So I think common sense is going to prevail. And it sounds weird because right now you have a fight within the United States right now, the pro-Palestinian left against the Israeli right, and neither one is correct, which the irony is. So maybe they're going to eat their own, and this is when the truth is going to finally come out. And I believe that's the direction we're going.
Well, I don't think they care. I think about it then, and then there's money to be made. We know USA Corp is bankrupt. We know they have no more money. We know they're playing with the books and cooking the books, and they keep printing money here in the United States that is based on nothing. It's fiat currency through and through. So much for the petrodollar. We at least had that behind our dollar. Now not so much because it's not being used in a lot of countries anymore. So we're on the verge of a collapse, and we kind of need to go through that in order to get to the other side and rebuild this thing in a more fair, more equitable way for everybody. But you can't do it. It's beyond fixing at this point. And I think Lewis's point is well taken, that the only way to do it right now is knock the foundation out and let the whole thing collapse, and then put a new foundation and build something fresh.
Well, I believe our government and our financial structure is already collapsed, and it's being held up as a facade right now.
Yep.
I really, really believe that's what's going on. I believe it's all been, of course, that fell on its face because we, the people, are winning. We have to understand we're winning. Guys, we would be gone already if the deep state was winning. They don't need us anymore. They've got AI to run everything. I don't know if that's part of the agenda on the conversation today, but AI is going to run everything. They do not need humans any longer. They really don't. So look at that every time you get frustrated and go, well, you know what? Clearly we're making a difference because we would already be gone at this point.
Yep. We're talking to Kevin Buzzer guy, who's not here today because he's working, but he'll watch the show a little bit later. And he was saying, hey, I can't get your Rumble channel anymore on the Amazon Fire Stick. And we thought, okay, well, that's interesting. So I went on to Roku, and I can get it there using the Rumble app, so it still works there. And we said, well, this is kind of interesting because if Amazon were blocking, the app, it would block all of Rumble. But he said, no, I can get other channels. I just can't get you guys' channels. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. There are no longer people watching the videos that, like, we think, oh, there's someone watching the video. Oh, I don't like Lewis. Bang, banned. That's not happening anymore. The reason why they're putting the text down there when we're speaking isn't for your benefit. You think it's for your benefit? It is not. It's that so the AI can read the text, scan through the text, and go, ooh, this word, we don't like this word, we don't like, ooh, they said this word, they said that word, shut it down. And they're able to knock the videos off like that. That's why it's happening so much more frequently now. It's not people anymore. You know, in the past it was, you know, some kid sitting in his mother's basement at 40 years old watching the video and go, yeah, I don't like these guys. Bam, delete. There's too many videos today. Way too
Right.
many videos. Couldn't keep up. So it's all
Yes.
AI.
Well, and it okay. So there's three components to it, in my opinion, why it seems like our channels are being targeted virtually more than almost any other channel out there. That doesn't mean we're cooler or better or more over the target.
Oh,
I
come
think
on. It's a badge of honor, Lewis. Come on.
yeah, well, it is, but I think there's three functionalities of that. One is I do think we're over the target a lot, and I think what happens is because we do a news program now, we hit on so many subjects in every single day that hit on these points that they hate, right? So what happens is then the AI component that you're talking about, the third component, kicks in, and it's like, oh my God, these guys are whoever it is, they don't know who we are. I believe the AI, looking at the algorithm, goes, oh well, this is it's probably a scoring system of some sort, I
Yep.
would assume, right?
Probably. Yep.
And then we're scoring really good or really in our minds, but really bad in their minds. And it's like, okay, we have to attack these guys. So I think the combination of those three things is why we're hearing from so many sources that we just can't find you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all right. Like you and I decided, number one, we're going to keep going. Number two, we have a really cool strategy that Robert and I are going to work on over the next week. And number three, we're going to grow this very organically because we're not going to get any help from search engines, algorithms, and as much as you guys try to help us, it's you're fighting an uphill battle. But
Yep.
keep going.
Bruce Poppy's in the chat room. Hey, Bruce. Good to see you here.
Poppy.
Thanks for joining us. He's getting a lot of accolades. He was saying somebody on X.com said Michael Jaco was taken to Gitmo and executed.
Yeah, in fact, I'll call him today, and hopefully he can speak with me from the grave.
Yeah, fill me in, will you? Fill me in. And then he
Yeah.
said Wano Savin was eaten by a bear. So
Again?
you know, there's so much out there, and you know what it is with us, Lewis. Our truth score is too high. That's the problem. You know, we got to be more into the narrative and playing their game. Then we won't get banned as much in other places. Speaking of the Black Swan event coming up, doesn't Congress have to approve?
Attacking our country, primarily on our homeland.
Yep.
That was hidden in the text, and then they manipulated it to say anywhere, but it never included other countries. So,
So here we are sitting, and we have 17,200 military personnel in the Middle East. How do you pull that off legally? I sit here going, I can't understand how they're doing this. The deployment comprises 6,000 sailors aboard the USS Ford, another 6,000 within the Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group, 4,000 sailors and Marines on the Bataan Amphibious Ready Group, and an extra 1,200 troops sent to the region, according to a report.
Tonkin was a CIA manipulation to draw us in the war, and our ships that so-called got attacked just happened to be in the area.
Same thing happening here. We happen to have ships off the coast of Yemen that are getting attacked.
Exactly. I believe that's what the goal is. The goal is to put enough forces in there in all the wrong places, and hope that one of these bastards come and attack us, some rogue, and then they'll blame it on a government, and then we'll be all in on the war, and then the U.S. gets to help wipe out Palestine. How wonderful will that be? Fucking idiots. I just don't see how people aren't seeing it. I really don't, and I get frustrated because people are all in on this war, and I'm like, how do you not see it? Did you learn nothing from Ukraine? Was it just learn nothing whatsoever? Are we just going to change the flag from yellow and blue to blue and white, and we're ready to go?
That was so murky in the media, and so many people are confused. They don't know who the good guy is, who the bad guy is, and we're seeing the same thing happen here. And they can manipulate the population any way they want to, whatever narrative they want to put out there, because people are going along with it. It's crazy.
The Ukrainian government that still comes out and speaks still has the Khazarian Mafia emblem over their shoulder
Yep.
behind them. Guys, if you don't know what the Khazarian Mafia is, you need to catch up because it's a big deal. But they have the Khazarian Mafia emblem in there. It just amazes me. And people are just like, go Ukraine, and now it's go Israel.
Yep.
How about go wake up?
So we sent now into the region one of our largest Ohio-class submarines with, let's see here. Well, no, obviously they've got the nukes over there now. This submarine pulled up yesterday, pulled up in the Middle East. It's popped up. We didn't know it was going there. Nobody knew it was going there. Who sent it? Who ordered it? How'd they get approval? It just showed up.
So, tinfoil hat. I do not believe that the bad guys have any control over nukes any longer. I think the good guys have control over the nukes. Nuclear weapon, but if it's not activated, it doesn't explode.
Right, it won't be activated. So they'll fire them up, but nothing will happen.
Doesn't matter.
But it probably will happen, yeah. Interesting. The acceleration of it is really interesting to watch too, because it's like, how do we get so many troops in there? How do we get this submarine in there? And it's just sort of like coming up on us, and we didn't hear anything about this. This was nowhere, and then all of a sudden, there it is. And I'm wondering how much more is on its way that we're not aware of. We were looking at the flight records, and they were saying those C-17 transports were flying out of the United States over to the Middle East. 50 of them, I think, in one weekend. That's a lot of moving of a lot of equipment. Those things carry quite a bit.
Yeah, great.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, and what will it be? What will it possibly be? All right, one more, and then we'll take a little pause here. We have to go to California because crazy Newsom, he's at it again. He signed a bill, $25 minimum wage for all hospital workers. This is from Zero Hedge. He finds out afterwards it'll cost California $4 billion. They call him Governor Hairspray. Doesn't pay attention much to California's budget numbers when he signs off on a bill. It's if putting on a green visor would mess up his costly quife. From the Los Angeles Times, when Governor Newsom signed this law that set a first-in-nation minimum wage for healthcare workers, 3 words in the bill, analysis forced potential concerns, fiscal impact unknown. 3 weeks later, $4 billion a year to taxpayers. So the janitor in the hospital, the people in housekeeping, the people who answer the phones, the receptionists, everyone now gets bumped to $25 an hour, starting wage. What about keeping healthcare costs down? What happened to that?
Well, yeah, this would increase healthcare costs.
Yeah,
but
massively. And taxes.
There is an interesting, how do you say, the side effect from something like this, and I mentioned this before. When they start implementing a 25 minimum wage on, say, healthcare, let's say that what they do, right? Mm-hmm. So what they're going to do is they're going to drive people from other industries into there, right? What you're going to do is it's going to be a massive challenge on corporations, because in order to compete, those other businesses that are not healthcare are going to have to raise the wages, and therefore we know it all trickles down to the consumer, and it's going to have a mass inflation issue.
Right.
But the other thing it does, though, which is, this is a side effect that a Newsom wouldn't like, is if you're paying these minimum 25, you've just given the unions no teeth whatsoever. So the unions will have to disband as soon as you make a wage threshold so high, because there is no use for the unions anymore. What are they going to negotiate? You already have free health care, supposedly, in California, right? That's what they tell you. But the other thing this $25 is going to do, it's going to put them over the health care amount that you have to owe. So then they're going to go from their free health care to paying $1,500 a month. So the ramifications on this are huge. What if, tinfoil hat, What if this is done intentionally to break down the financial system in California? And I believe California is separate from the United States. I believe California is a corporation within itself, separate from the DC corporation that runs the rest of the United States. And I do believe Texas is already seceded, let's say, in a way by some of the actions if you watch what they're doing. That's why I believe this corporation is already defunct and the feds are already defunct, and it's just a matter of tearing it all down publicly because there's a facade that's being run. And I believe you have a bunch of paper politicians that are pretending to do a lot of things that really aren't happening. I think you kind of indicated that a little bit earlier before.
Yeah, I asked Gene Decode that exact question. I said, how much longer does this facade continue? And he believed that before the end of the year, the whole thing would collapse. So,
I think that's too optimistic,
yeah,
but I'd be happy to see that.
I'd be
I think
happy
it's
to see that. I'm hearing a lot of people thinking in March. So, so we're within the 6 month window, I think, of the whole thing falling apart. But I'm surprised. We looked at November 4th and we said, wow, it's been 3 years. I never thought it would go 3 years. I thought
right.
6 weeks, and we get this thing resolved. And here we are 3 years later, and the damage that's been done to this country. It's like you cannot wind it back and go to 2019 again. Which everyone, let's go back to 2019. We'll put Trump in, and it'll fix everything. There's stuff that's done, damage that's done to this country that will take generations to repair, right?
Yeah. Look at all the illegal immigrants.
Yeah. How do you get rid of them? How do you get rid of
how you
15
gonna
million
fix?
or whatever the number is?
They're not gonna deport them. Even when Trump comes back,
Can't do
they
it.
will not be deported. So what you have to do is, I do believe that when we get things fixed, though, there will be a point where anybody worldwide can thrive. So I believe there will be incentive for people to go back to their homeland, right? And it may even be incentive for Americans to go to other countries, right? Because they may want to be in that different atmosphere, but you can thrive. And I have a feeling this is what's going to happen. I believe the infrastructure is going to be set up through a quantum type banking system, a blockchain type voting system, where in a free energy type, free water type system, where you'll be able to thrive anywhere, because now all the inventions that are suppressed and all the wonderful things that people want to create, we're going to be open up to do that worldwide. So that's my rose-colored Pollyanna glasses, but I believe that's what's going to take care of a lot of this, is people will be wanting to go back to their home countries because they'll be able to be successful there and they'll feel very comfortable there. We'll see what happens, but I really do believe it's going to be a bright future for us. But like anything, you got to tear it down before you build it back up.
And you look at a lot of these too, it's just single males coming up, right? So they've left their families behind, and how long is that going to last before they're longing for home?
The question is, they here to fight, or are they here to build an income for their family?
Well, they're promised an income, right?
Yep, that's the
Yeah.
question, though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them may be sleepers, unfortunately.
And the banks are really cracking down on people sending money outside the country. Apparently, I'm hearing that now more and more, that you send a wire outside the country. Well, where'd the money come from? Who is it going to? What's it for? You get 50 questions. They're talking about that in Australia, happening a lot more. And here in the United States, I'm starting to hear that story. So it's going to be harder for them to send money back home. So how long will they really want to stay here if the reason for coming here doesn't work?
Yep.
So fascinating. Hey, show me that purple bottle again. I really like that bottle. That was kind of cool.